on some big bucks today. I'll get on the track, big buck, and then we'll down today. It's a big 10-4.
Welcome to another episode of the Adirondack Bucks and Beyond podcast. This podcast is sponsored by Stagger Gear. If you haven't yet, make sure you head on over to the Stagger Gear website where you'll find everything from their wool tracker jacket, their Apex Merino base layers, and even their 100% rag wool gloves and much more. Everything you need to keep you dry, warm, and comfortable for a long day's adventure in the woods. Be sure to enter our promo code ABB with any purchase made on the Stagger Gear website to get 10% off your order. That's promo code ABB for 10% off your order, all at www.staggergear.com.
All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Adirondack Bucks and Beyond podcast. And today, I'm opening it up.
Yep.
So you're listening to Brad. I got Bailey in the back. Adam's driving, and right now we're headed north. I think we're going north on 48 in West Virginia, and we're headed home after a week of turkey hunting.
Almost heaven. West Virginia, the Ridge Mountains, Shenandoah River.
Boy, she is beautiful, too. We have enjoyed ourselves out here in West Virginia.
Yes,
but
we
it didn't
have.
start out that way.
No, which we're going to talk about today. When you guys might be able to hear a little tire action and maybe some Jake brakes going down the hill in the background, but that's just because we're headed home and we're on the road and going to podcast for an hour or so and kind of fill you guys in, and we'll release this first before the video so you guys can kind of create an image in your head, and then we'll come out with a video. I think it'll be pretty cool.
It's hard to leave right now as we head home down the highway, and so this feels like a little bit of a hanging on it, that we can. It feels like we're still hunting a little bit because we're talking about it. I'm gonna turn myself down just a little bit. It looks a little loud.
And we wanted to talk about it when it was still pretty fresh in our minds.
Yeah.
So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I guess we'll start with kind of right when we got here and what we did and how we went from there. So I guess we'll start with the first day we scouted here. We
talk about our initial impression when we first got to where we stayed, because that was not what we envisioned that area looking like.
Yeah. No. First off, when we pulled in, we could have sworn we were in like Canada or Montana or somewhere.
Straight out of a Jim Shockey moose hunting video.
That's what it looked like.
Yeah, I mean, just in this big, deep valley with these giant mountains above us with, like, I don't know what kind of, like, brush it was.
It's like tundra-esque
it's like
type landscape.
What you'd picture in a tundra was that brush coming up, and there's just deer everywhere, and did not look very turkey-ish, to be honest. Like, that was our very first impression when we got here. We're like, where we are now definitely does not look like somewhere we can.
Nobody said it, but that was how we knew that we were all thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
Like, this don't really look like there's turkeys here.
Yeah, so the first thing we did, we went in there, and we went into our campground that we stayed at, and I asked the lady, I said, is there turkeys around here? She said, oh, yeah, there's turkeys around here. We're like, all right, well, maybe we'll get into some. So
Bailey said, can you hunt them here? And she said, no, not inside the park, but nothing says you can't lasso them.
Hell, you could have lassoed some of those deer in there.
Oh, yeah, we could have had a whole herd of them.
So we got there. We set up camp. What time did we get there? We got there at about
4 or 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
Probably 4 or 5, and we roosted that night, right?
Oh, no, what am I talking about? We got there around noon, 1 o'clock, because we had left early that morning.
Yeah, we got there about 1:30, I think.
Yeah, what did we do that first? Did we walk anything out that first day, or did we drive around?
No, we just drove around. We kind of got a view of the landscape and what we were dealing with and what we were up against.
And again, found ourselves going to areas that did not look like it was really turkey country.
Yeah.
And initially it was like unbelievably ruggedly rocky, steep mountains, and we're like, where would a turkey even live in here?
That's when we drove that back road first day, and we were like, whoa, this does not look anything like we envisioned.
And even the road we drove in on, we were like, dude, we're going to need a 4x4 with mud tires, like, jacked up to get through some of these rock crevices and everything. This ain't going to work.
It was a little scary, some of the roads we went down. And so at this point, we're looking around like, what the hell is going on? Whatever. We'll go out tomorrow, and we'll scout around. It's open in the morning. And maybe we'll get lucky and hear a bird. So that next morning comes, and I think we headed out to a place that had a cut on it, right? That's when we went to out in that big swamp. And we did a pretty good loop on this piece of property, and we didn't find a lick
of turkey sign. Like, nothing in there told us that there would be a turkey other than some of the woods looking, nice looking, really. That's all there was. So we bombed around the rest of that day, checking out a couple other pieces and whatnot. And then later that afternoon, we ended up going up to this, I don't know if this is going to give away exactly where we were, but we went to this
Don't do it.
Okay, I won't say where we were, but we were watching this field, a couple fields, and Brad finally spotted a tom strutting with a hen over to our left, and that was way up on private. We're like, oh, no shit, all right, we found a bird after, basically 2 days of looking.
Yeah, and just to put it into perspective, like, we came down here with the idea that we were going to get to West Virginia. We had talked to some friends that have hunted in West Virginia. There's a lot of good, to an extent, a lot of good content. THP's put out a lot of good videos of turkey hunting in West Virginia. And we really thought we were going to get down here and the hills were just going to be screaming with turkeys.
Yeah.
So from the first day we got here on Sunday afternoon, then basically all through Monday as well, we weren't seeing turkeys, hearing turkeys, seeing turkey sign, finding country that even looked like it had turkeys in it. We were like, we were talking like, boys, did we just garhole ourselves? Like, did we not do our research on this place? Because there's tons of public land here, but where are the turkeys?
Right, and everything from the road that we looked at, other than the field which we'll get to, where we found these toms eventually, looked like shit. The woods looked terrible. We were looking at them. There's a few spots where we went and we're like, oh, that, turkeys could probably be held in there. But other than that, everything looked kind of crappy for turkeys to live in.
Yeah.
So this will come into play as we get on with this podcast. But the original spot that we went to, the very first spot we went to, it was the first spot we went to that first morning, right? Up in the mountains there, where we were today. We went there, and there's a couple guys up there who said, yeah, there's usually birds up here that haven't been gobbling. And what we did is we stayed in the car. We never got out and walked anything. We looked at a couple things, like, yeah, that might be nice to walk, but we never really committed to it and walked and just stayed in the car and called a couple times to the road and said, good enough. Well, it wasn't good enough.
No.
And we found that out.
We hamstringed ourselves by doing that.
Right. So we go on later that day, and we find some different toms. There's 3 toms now out on this piece of private that is bordered right next to public.
Yeah. In just the most, beautiful, picturesque, rolling West Virginia farm country.
Yeah, just a beautiful big old
that butts
green
right
field.
up to some giant national forest land.
Yeah, a big oak savanna knob basically is right where these turkeys were roosted. So they're roosting on public and flying down to the private. So now we're like, well, shit, we gotta
this could work.
We gotta find out how to get in there. So we went. The problem was it was basically landlocked.
On the maps.
On the maps with private, and there was only one place to get in on the public, and man, we knew it was going to be a hell of a time to get back there from where we wanted to go. So we went and did a lot of door knocking, didn't get any permission. Funny enough, I go knock on this one door, and this nice girl answers, and I asked her, I'm like, hey, can we go through your property? She said, oh, I don't know, I'll ask my boyfriend, he's a hunter. Well, he ends up texting me, and we talked throughout the entire week. Wicked nice dude. And unfortunately, we couldn't use their property, but we met him, and that was pretty cool.
And just to clarify, we were knocking on doors just to access the public. It wasn't to hunt their land.
No,
it was just to access it.
It was just to go on the public.
Because I had said to the boys when we first found these birds, like, I didn't personally come to West Virginia to hunt private land.
Yeah.
So, and they were good about it, and so that's what we agreed to do, is we're going to hunt these birds from the public land.
Yeah. Oh, no.
And they set up perfect for it.
So, didn't end up getting any permission. So we go in there that following morning, and the plan was to stop a little short of where we thought those birds were, let them fly down in the field, and then we will get up on that knob because we don't want to risk, busting them right off the roost and then having no shot. So we stopped short, thinking maybe we could hear another bird. Well, we don't hear a single bird, to our surprise, because those woods were beautiful. And so we drop down, we come back up that next ravine, and I'm talking like, the way I'm making it sound is like, oh, we drop down and then pop back up.
Yeah, we just up down.
This is like real rugged country, and it was not fun getting up and down.
Like taking multiple breaks as you're going up the side of these mountains because you're just huffing and puffing.
I think it was almost 1 mile on the dot to where we went to, but in all reality,
it felt like 3.
It felt like 3 or 4.
Yeah.
So we get up there, and we weren't 20 yards from the top of that ridge, and we had a tom just blast about 75 yards away. And all of us kind of had the same look on our face, like, oh shit. Like we knew we were real close to this bird, and so we started kind of crawling up, and as we were crawling up, this tom had crested the ridge. He must have got busted. There was a couple of jakes out in the field in front of him. They must have chased him off or whatever, and he catches us, and we're like, dang it, did we just mess this whole thing up? And so whatever, that bird moves on. We climb up to the top of the ridge, and then boom, there's 2 more toms gobbling, and I see him strutting out in the field with those 5 jakes. So we're like, all right, we're still in the game here. And then Brad, I guess you could take over a little bit, because this is when things got a little crazy up there.
Yeah, our intent was to have Adam be the first one to shoot a bird while we were down here, and so Bailey and Adam kept setting up together in a way that Bailey could film Adam as the intended shooter. And basically what happened was Adam faced himself towards the field while we were on this oak knob about, maybe 100 yards in the woods from the field, pretty well protected because of the topography from them seeing us. And those birds were really receptive to my calling, and they came in, except there was a big downed log in front of Adam and Bailey that ended up, I think, to some extent kind of pushing these birds wider than we expected around them. And they went from, right to left out in front of them, and they swung kind of down over a hill, or like the side of the ridge that we were sitting on, and then they started working their way back up. And one of the birds definitely he's definitely a goblin tom. Like, you can just hear it.
It was one of those gobbles where you're sitting there and you're just waiting for him to gobble again, see who he is. And that last one was just like,
oh yeah, he is right in front. Like, you're just waiting for him to put his head up over the ridge.
It gave you that little pounding in your chest because I had that little rattle to it.
So I was sat back behind them, kind of more guarding that area in case that exact type of thing happened. Just, by luck, it just worked out that way. But here comes a head telescoping up over the hill, and he's a redhead, nice redhead on him. And I'm thinking we're about to, fill our first tag on day 2, and bird never shows his chest. And then another redhead comes up over the hill right next to him, and they're telescoping us hard. They're already kind of figuring out something's up.
The second they popped over that ridge, they're like, she needs to be here, and if she's not here, we're out of here.
Exactly. It was that close. And just ultimately, neither one of them came up far enough over the ridge to show me whether or not they were a tom or a jake. And I'm just personally not into shooting jakes, so I held off, hoping they might work slowly off to my right some more and give me a better look at them. And they didn't. They just turned around, and they didn't booger too bad. They just kind of turned around and went back down over the hill, and that was it.
I think they might have putted like twice, and then it was over.
So in many ways, I feel like we did kill one in West Virginia. I certainly could have blistered one of those turkeys. We would have shot a male bird in West Virginia, but I came down here to shoot a tom or two, so we just held off.
Yeah,
and I'm not mad about it. It was a fun hunt.
You've got a pretty good record of not shooting jakes, and
yeah, I'm just trying to keep it that way. That's all. Nothing wrong with anybody that shoots a jake.
Pride yourself on, for sure.
Yeah.
Just
fixing this here.
That thing's a pain, isn't it?
Yeah, it's all right. All right, we're there now.
So that did it for day 2.
Wow,
and
look at the fog.
I know, it's beautiful.
What's that?
Look at the fog.
The fog just sitting in that valley out there.
We're coming down this highway right now and looking at 1,800 windmills on top of these
side
beautiful
note,
mountains.
West Virginia really ruined the view with these windmills.
Yeah, not a big fan.
I'm looking at one whole mountain system right now, and there's got to be, what, boys, 50?
There's a lot.
Oh, yeah.
50 windmills all the way down.
Yeah. Thank God there wasn't anywhere we were. But so that would lead us into day 3. So, and this is where, and we will get into this because this is the biggest mistake we made, and we realized it probably yesterday is when we realized it. So now we know there's three toms there. Now maybe 2 because that one blew. We did blow that other one off the ridge.
The one we initially
saw crest, and he saw us. He ended up busting off the backside of the ridge. So now we're going into day 3. Day 2, at the end of the day, we saw these birds back in that field again. And they were gobbling their heads off.
We're like, all right, maybe we didn't booger them too bad.
Right. So now we're like, okay, well, hell, we might as well just do that terrible hike again and go back in there. So we go back in there day 3, and we did not hear a thing, right? They didn't make a peep?
No. I mean, they were
gobbling, but
yeah.
Right.
We were so out of the game. They
Yeah.
were not interested in us, and nor were they close to us.
So now we've wasted 2 full days here, basically.
Yeah, but again, I just want to remind everybody, like, the struggle we're going through. So in our initial hike into this spot, we side hill these basically 3 different mountains to get in there, and it was just brutal walking,
But beautiful woods.
But on the way out that second day, after I passed those birds, Adam decides to walk the creek out back to the truck, and me and Bailey wanted to check out what looked to be some sort of road system that was embedded in this public land. And we'll come to find out it's an old logging road, and it is beautiful.
Yeah.
Green grass growing on it, hardwood, big hardwoods up above it, big hardwoods down below it. I mean, if a turkey's supposed to strut anywhere, he's supposed to strut in here.
Mm-hmm.
And by day 3, when we go back in there after seeing those birds back out in the field the night before, we make the hike back in. Nothing really goes our way. And again, on the way back out, walking that beautiful logging road, there is no turkey sign. There's no turkey gobbling. We're like, what is going on the public land?
Nothing.
Like, what does it take to find a turkey around here?
I mean, and you're calling down into, I don't know, probably 5 different sections of mountains, basically, on the way out, because what it does is basically, in this type of terrain anywhere, really, I've realized in any state, it just wraps around the point, and then it goes back into the valley, and then it wraps around the point is what these roads do. And on every point, we're out there calling and hooting and trying everything to get a bird
and
to gobble.
we can hunt till 1 o'clock in West Virginia, and this is now day 3, and basically we've done, I don't even know what it'd be from the time it's light till it's 1 o'clock, almost 7 hours, I would say, from 6 to 1 o'clock. So now we've almost logged in 3 days, 21 hours of trying to find friggin' turkeys, whether it's on foot, but mostly in the car, driving to these different national forest areas, just trying to find something that is that aha moment of there's the turkeys. Mm-hmm. So we were getting really frustrated. We were like, man, West Virginia sucks.
Right.
And we hate West Virginia.
So then day 4, that would have been day 4 was yesterday, right?
Yep.
So that leads us to day 4, and we were feeling like Brad was just saying. I mean, we were like, "Is there turkeys in this state?" It's funny. The entire first couple days, we're like, "This place is trash. This place is terrible."
And we just hunted some places that we kept saying if we were back home, there'd be turkeys in here. And this is as good as it gets for turkey.
We talked to a gentleman from Pennsylvania who said the same thing. He's like, the places that he was hunting, there should have been turkeys, back at home.
From what it looked like when you're in, I mean, I'm just looking as we're driving now. You just look out through these beautiful West Virginia hills and hollers and everything else.
And they're empty.
There should be turkeys gobbling on every hill you're looking out through or mountain you're looking out through, and that is not the case.
Yeah.
You do have to find them.
Yep. So we pull into the first place we stopped at, up in the truly mountainous hardwood terrain of West Virginia. Mm-hmm. Which is what we wanted to originally hunt anyways. Mm-hmm. So we pull in there day 4, and won't we be damned, we opened up. We didn't even open up the door. We rolled the windows.
We had pulled up to a pin we dropped days earlier when we had just drove through there scouting, and like you were saying,
we dropped the pin. We pulled up and rolled the windows down, and not, I don't know, 2 minutes later we just hear Brad just heard the faintest gobble, and we're like, you gotta be kidding me! There's a bird up there. So we're like, all right, we have to get up on that ridge.
Yeah, he was a mountain over from us.
Yes. Well, yeah, basically just down a big holler, and we had the road separated us, right?
Yes, the main road separated. Main forest road.
Correct. So we're like, all right, we're going after this bird. By the time we started hiking this mountain, and I mean this mountain is straight up and down and shale. Just loose shale all the way up this mountain. Mm-hmm. So it made it absolutely terrible to climb.
And it had just a touch of rain on it, so it was slicker than could be. It was
slick. We were falling all over the place. So we start hiking up that mountain, and we come to this logging road, and we're like, how do we want to approach this? And so Brad and I are kind of looking on the ground, and there's just fresh scratching, fresh as in within a day. Wasn't from that morning, but the day before. We're kind of looking at it and like, well, this bird hasn't gobbled since we've been climbing up this mountain. All we have now is what we think he used, this road to go roost last night. Brad said we got to start tracking him like a deer. And so that's what we did. We started tracking this bird all the way through this logging road.
Just following the scratching.
until it basically disappeared. And we're like, and it brought us to that finger, right?
Well, no, it basically brought us to that initial bend where we talked about going up over the top.
Right.
But Adam thought it would be better for us to stay on the logging trail we were on.
Which was the right call.
Right, and go around the point of it. And that ended up being a very good call because if we'd gone over the top, unbeknownst to us, we probably would have ran right into this bird.
Right.
And obviously, just to remind people too, like, just keep in mind, I know you guys have probably listened to a lot of other podcasts about these types of areas, but it is very difficult to pinpoint where a sound is coming from.
So difficult.
So although when we initially opened up the doors on the truck to listen and we heard this bird gobbling, we mark him, on the maps, he looks to be, or he sounds to be about here.
Right.
Once you get over there and you see what the landscape looks like, you're like, oh man, he could be anywhere. We could have already busted him. Like,
well, when we got up, when we were 3/4 of the way up there and we're standing on a log road, Brad's like, "This is where my pin was, where he was." But he obviously wasn't there.
No,
because his scratching from the day before was way around the other side of the mountain.
Mm-hmm. Especially with how that piece laid out in the valley he was in, because it started in as a pretty steep creek bed valley that was cut through between two mountains, and then behind that it really opened up into a basin. Like, it looked like a lollipop.
Yeah.
And he could have been anywhere within that, and you would have never known the difference.
Sure. Yeah. It was. I mean, and some time had passed since he had initially been gobbling, and we were in these wide open hardwoods. So like we felt exposed. We felt like we didn't know exactly where he was. So some of the second guessing quickly comes in.
Yeah.
Like, did we not take our time on this bird? Should we have gone around more? So anyways, we decided we're going to go around this point instead of going right up over the top. Mm-hmm. And ultimately, this bird just goes quiet for a while on us.
But we knew we kept saying
we were confident he was there.
We know he's up here. There's no way he left. All the sign on this mountain, all the food, the beautiful, beautiful rolling hardwoods that were up on top of this mountain.
The further we got into that mountain, the better the terrain got. Like, we were like, every 2 seconds, like, man, it's beautiful in here. Man, it should be a turkey in here. Man, he's got to be here somewhere. Like, it just kept getting better.
Yeah. So ultimately, we sit down on this finger for probably half hour maybe.
Hour, so,
we took some pictures and some video, and we're just kind of goofing off and calling every now and then, and nothing was going on. So that 30 minutes is up. We get up, we start heading straight up the finger, and come to basically, there's a logging road that cuts straight over top of this mountain, and we're standing in the logging road, and right down in front of us, I mean directly in front of us, is this big, giant, perfect bowl, just a big hardwood bowl. We're like, huh. And we're looking down to our right. We have this big roll, like I'm talking about, this big, like, rolling, like, oak savanna finger. And it is just freaking beautiful up there. I mean, beautiful. So Adam gets on his little slate call, starts calling away. Nothing. Well, I'm pretty sure.
Wind was blowing.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure when this bird gobbled, I was mid-laughing because we were messing around doing something. And all of a sudden, this bird just all by himself, pow, right down in that bowl. And we're like, oh, boy, that bird's less than 100
It was like scramble for a tree.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we stuck the decoy out on the logging road that we were on. And we originally sat down, and this bird gobbled like 2 more times. And Brad pointed one way, and Adam and I pointed the other way. And we're like, man, he's down in this bowl. And what's happening was the same thing that happened to us in Kentucky. And when those birds would gobble, it was just bouncing. Because then Brad moved over to us, and when that bird gobbled again, Brad thought it was the other way.
Yeah, initially, I'm like, he gobbles. I'm like, okay, he's down. He's right off to the right. Like he's getting right on us, getting right.
Right.
So we adjust so that I flip flop with Bailey and Adam, so Adam can be where I was because it's good shooting over there. And I go to where they're sitting. Bird gobbles again. I'm like, damn, it sounds like he's coming back to the left again, but he wasn't. He wasn't.
So at this point, we had moved 2 times trying to get set up correctly for Adam to get the shot on this bird. So we didn't really know which way he was coming from. Adam was facing left towards the decoy, expecting him to come up that way. And actually, with the camera, I was facing right because I was either going to catch him coming up that way or I was going to spin over Adam's shoulder and film him that way. And Brad is 20 yards behind us, like kind of over my right shoulder.
Yep.
And all of a sudden, this bird just goes quiet, and at that point, it's like he gobbled twice pretty good, 2 or 3 times pretty good, and then he went quiet like he's coming. He's definitely coming.
Yeah, he's just trying to sneak in on us.
So I'm sitting there with the camera, and you never saw him, right, Brad?
Nope.
I'm sitting there.
You were too low down.
Yeah, I was on
right?
a gentle grade just behind
Yeah.
you guys, so I was about 3 or 4 feet lower than you.
So I'm sitting there with the camera, and I'm looking straight off. I have no idea where he's coming. All of a sudden, I just see a tail fan, and it's like picturesque hardwoods hunting with the sun beaming down. The sun was beaming down on his tail fan so hard while he was spinning that you could see through it. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh yeah,
When
it like
hits
makes
him
it
just right.
translucent.
Yeah. So that's all I see, and I go, Adam, he's to our right, he's to our right. And as soon as I said that, I just kind of heard Adam's shoulder sliding against a tree, and I go, don't move, don't move, don't move. And as soon as the situation was just, we were in a horrible spot.
Yeah, it was innocent. It was innocent. Yeah. It's always a hunter's natural reaction to want to see
look.
the animal. Yeah.
And who knows? Maybe I moved too with the camera. I don't know, but whatever it was, caught the bird's attention. He started doing the head up in the air, like side looking with his eye. And next thing I know, I just hear him go. Whew. I hear him do that little whirl, and I hear the leaves twirl up, and he was gone. Boy. Yeah, he was gone. And that was that. We were bummed because not only did we feel like we missed the opportunity, we also felt like we wasted our time earlier in the week.
Yeah, we realized we should have been there all along.
And it just kept becoming more and more prevalent the rest of the day when we kept hunting and we kept covering a lot more ground. Mm-hmm. How many times did I say it to you yesterday? I cannot believe we did that. I cannot believe that we rode around and looked in fields while we were in West Virginia when we should have had boots on the ground, covering ground, getting up high in the morning. If it was a mile hike up, we should have just done it.
Well, the problem is that everywhere we were going to in these national forests, when you looked up these mountains, they just seeming, I mean, we're talking 4,000 footers, 4,400 footers in some areas, which, maybe we'll get up to 3,000 feet in the Adirondacks, but most days it's 2,500 roughly.
Right.
So these were monsters to us. And, I mean, you're just looking up these steep mountains, and they're all rocky and mossy on the side, and you're like, first of all, what in the world would a turkey ever be doing at the top of this thing?
Right.
And second of all, I don't really want to climb that without, because of what we'd been dealing with, which was not finding turkeys. So the motivation was low. But come to find out, when this bird gobbles on that fourth day, the morning, when that bird gobbles, and we think nothing of scaling up this mountain. Well, we get to the top of this mountain, and it just opens up into these benches and bowls, and it's all this hardwood, and we're like, oh my gosh, this is like walking into another like a time zone. Where did this area come from? Because from the bottom, it does not look. It looks like there should be a cicada somewhere up at the top of this thing. It looks like a Washington. That's what I feel like. It's mossy, rocky.
But it was like every mountain that we ended up climbing, the higher up you went, the more beautiful it got.
Right, and there was turkeys up there.
There was turkeys. There was the sign to prove it too.
Oh, scratched! Oh my gosh, and we hadn't seen scratching all week.
And then so after that, encounter happened, we ended up going and walking this brand new logging road that they're cutting out, and there was turkey tracks and there turkey poop, and we're like, I remember we sat against these trees, and we just sat there shooting the shit, and we just kept saying, man, oh man, we backed ourselves into a corner because we got caught chasing with our eyes instead of our, instead of putting boots on the ground and figuring out where these birds were.
That's right.
And
it's a bad habit from home.
In my opinion, that screws you 9 out of 10 times. I say it all the time. I hate hunting field birds, and that's why I was like, why the hell did we do that all week? But we were all in agreement. Like, those are the birds that we need to go after. They're right there. Those are the birds we know of. But that just was not the case. We messed up big time.
Yeah, we did. That was a bummer because all we had left was one more morning, and we had to get headed home, which is what we're doing right now.
Yeah,
so we weren't
even gonna hunt this morning.
No, because the hunting had been so poor. We had decided on Wednesday. We're like, you know what? We're gonna give it one more shot on Thursday, and then Friday we're leaving first thing. We're not even gonna hunt.
Yeah, and so that happened, and we're like, what should we do? We don't have to come all the way back to camp because we had almost an hour drive.
Yeah, we've been driving about an hour every day from the campground we were at. But that goes to show how hard we were working to try and find turkeys.
Listen,
we were driving an hour from camp.
And there was plenty of public nearby.
Mm-hmm. We were driving by so much public ground to find this.
Yeah. So we ended up saying that we were going to pack the camp up that night and then pack the tent down in the morning, and which is what we ultimately did, so we can get a couple extra hours of hunt this morning, which led us into today.
3 a.m. rise and shine.
Honestly, one of the most beautiful mornings I've ever had in the turkey woods.
Agreed.
I mean, if I could put this into perspective, we didn't go roost last night. We just assumed that we boogered this bird. He's not going to be far. If we get up high, we'll probably be able to hear him gobble.
And it's not like we boogered him hard enough to not make it feel worth it either.
Right.
You know, he saw something he didn't like, and he bounced because he's been hunted before.
Right, and he flew deeper into the hardwoods that were up at the top, so we're like, he'll be in here somewhere.
And if he's not, another one will be.
Right,
that was our
there
thought
was so
process.
much hardwoods we hadn't covered because we kind of ran into him on the fringe of the hardwoods. We're like, if he's not in here, there's plenty of room for us to move around and call on the tops of this mountain. There's going to be another turkey in here somewhere.
Yep. So we end up finding this road system that made a lot easier access than what we did the day before. And we hike up. We got there at a real good time. We got there probably, 5 a.m.?
Maybe even earlier.
And we started hiking up in there. We had like a 1.3 mile hike, but it was nothing on this big grassy road.
Yeah.
But it was good because they had the gates closed on it. So it appeared nobody had been up there really.
No, people couldn't drive in there.
Yeah, well, I'll get to it, I guess. I'm getting ahead of myself. So we end up walking up this road, and just as it starts to, just get a little light out, we're like, you know what? We shouldn't go busting up to the top of this mountain right now because we truly don't know where this bird is. We busted him down here the day before. He flew right to where we were basically standing.
Right.
And we're like, we don't know. He could have just walked right up here, and he could be roosted right above our head right now. It's not a good idea for us to go stomping through the crunchy hardwoods and potentially blow this bird off the roost and then have nothing.
Especially because it was just breaking gray light. Like, it was just getting to be that point where you're checking the treetops above you to make sure there's nothing looking down at you,
So
absolutely.
It worked out perfectly. It was like a 90-degree bend, or not 90. It was almost like a
it was like a switchback,
160-degree turn in the road. And we decided we're going to sit on a couple trees right there. So we're sitting there, and let me just put this into perspective because I want to paint this picture as good as I can. We are sitting there, and the sun is coming up, and it is a blistering orange color rising over top of these giant, beautiful hardwood West Virginia mountains. And you could hear a needle drop from 3 miles away this morning. There wasn't a lick of wind when it was gobbling, when it was just about gobbling time.
Your ears would ring. It was so quiet.
Oh man, and we're sitting there and it's dead quiet, and all of a sudden the birds start chirping and coming alive, and the woods start coming alive.
The spring birds.
And and all of us are kind of looking at each other like we got to hear one. Like there is no better spot to be on April 18th. Today's April 18th, right?
Yeah, 19th.
19th, yeah. Excuse me. There's no better spot to be on April 19th than where we are standing right now. This is what we dreamed of for this trip, and all that would make it is a gobbling bird. Well, I'll be damned. Brad and I look at each other, and I looked at him. I said, "Did you hear a gobble?" And Brad's like, "I swear I'm hearing phantom gobbles." Like, I could have sworn I did too. Not 2 minutes later, Adam and Brad are looking the other way, and I just hear out of my left corner, my left ear, I hear, "Ow." Just the faintest little gobble, and I said, "There he is, boys!" And did he not start hammering?
Yeah, it's funny
that?
because initially you were the only one that heard it, and then all of a sudden, once we were clued into it, we're like, "Oh boy, there's a bird hammering up there."
Yeah, he wasn't just gobbling.
He was letting it rip
when
this
that sun really started peeking over and those birds started chirping, he just started joining in with them.
Yep.
Oh boy, that got me fired up. Not a lot of birds.
This was the type of morning that I don't care how close-lipped an old Tom can get. He was going to gobble.
He was going to gobble.
It was just a perfect spring morning.
Couldn't help himself.
No.
So we're like, oh my God, this is the perfect scenario for the last morning to make some magic happen.
Right.
And we are on the most beautiful logging road you could possibly imagine. So we start making our way up, and we realize that he is all the way out, almost to the. We think he was almost like halfway down that finger, right?
Yeah. So where we are in the bend in the trail, and the sun's coming up, and we realize he's gobbling. We do an about face in the trail, and we're looking at the map and we're like, he is definitely on this finger right above us.
Right.
And he's somewhere about probably halfway out the point of it from what it initially sounded like. And that finger, from where we thought he was within 300 yards already of very open hardwoods.
The first few times we heard him, let's turn that a little bit. The first few times that we heard him, he must have been standing on the limb the other way. And when
that's exactly what happened.
When he turned and faced us, we realized we're like, oh boy, we're in the game with this one.
Oh
like,
yeah.
This is the closest logging road unless he pitched straight down the mountain. Mm-hmm. This is the closest logging road to where he is.
Right.
So we scramble and get set up. Brad sets a decoy out. Adam tucks one tree ahead of me. I'm on the tree behind him. 2 great big trees. Beautiful cover where Adam and I are blocked by these little like greenbrier basically right in front of us. So we are just perfectly camoed in. Brad is again like 20 yards over my left shoulder, and this bird just starts twisting off. He just started twisting off.
Yeah, well, he went quiet for a little bit. And we got...
Did he go?
Oh, he was quiet for a long time.
Oh, until he hit the ground,
and
right?
Then, yes. We were kind of nervous because we had just made some ground up on him. And we were pushing the envelope a little bit because obviously we didn't know how far he could see or what he could see from his roost.
And you got to remember, it's wide open in there.
That's what I mean. We didn't know what he could see from his roost. And all of a sudden, he went real quiet. And he had been hammering.
Yes.
And I was like, in my mind, I'm like, I cannot believe we have already managed to screw this hunt up.
That's right.
And then he gobbles, and he is clearly on the ground.
Yes.
We're like, oh baby, this thing is really about to happen.
And that's when we got set up, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So this bird lands on the ground after being quiet for a little bit, gobbles. We get scramble set up, and Brad hits the box call, and not 2 seconds after he hits that box call,
immediate answer.
He answers it, and I go, oh boy.
Oh
boy. Brad does it one more time. He answers again. I go, oh, it's over.
Too good to be true.
It is over.
Yeah.
And I'm just gonna keep setting the scene for everybody listening, so they can paint this picture in their head. At this point, this bird's gobbling to every call that Brad makes. I have the most beautiful camera angle for this bird to come over. There's a little hump. Basically, there was a little hump in the logging road, and it came all the way down. And at the bottom of where it like landed and got flat is where a decoy was. And then probably like 15, 20 yards off the decoy was Adam and I. So I would just have beautiful footage of this bird came over top of that lip. And I'm staring off to my right, and this sun is, I couldn't even explain the orangish, like pinkish color it was coming up over top of these mountains. The most beautiful morning I've ever experienced in the turkey woods. So now this bird's gobbling. I'm shaking like a leaf. I see Adam shaking like a leaf. And I think he gobbled. It took him like a minute or two, and he gobbled on his own. He was like 20 yards closer. And then Adam, if you want to take over, Brad, you want to take over, you guys are more than welcome to.
So he hammers off, definitely closer. And at this point, I'm like, okay, he's good chance he's going to take this logging road and pop. Once he pops over this hill, he needs to come about 5 yards, and he can catch some TSS. And I'm like, this is the setup that we've been looking for all freaking.
This was the setup we talked about
all week.
Yes.
Too. How we just wanted one to come strutting down the log road. And not to interrupt you, Adam, but all I could picture when this bird, because this bird eventually keeps gobbling and getting closer, every time he's gobbling, all I can picture is this bird popping over top of that lip and just being in full strut. That's all I'm picturing in my mind.
Yeah, and I mean, and Adam, I'm gonna let you pick up too. Yep. But again, just to set the scene, like we keep saying log road because it seems as though West Virginia does a good job of managing their timber, and they don't do a lot of, at least where we were, a lot of clear cutting and stuff. Right. But where we were, there's a lot of information about the logging practices that have occurred over the years.
Yes.
And those logging roads have now turned into, some of them have been stoned, like gravel stoned, so that you can drive them, and a lot of them are just gated off so that you can have foot access. And obviously, as a result, you have these wide open old logging trails that have grown in to beautiful native grasses and everything. And it's exactly what you just picture, an old Eastern Tom coming strutting down with his hand.
Not only is it this beautiful logging road, but like we said 100 times, you're surrounded by the most beautiful hardwoods.
And the hardwoods were wide open and like really not budded out at all yet. So you just have this like green matted calling card running right through these hardwoods for these turkeys to come pick bugs and pick and do whatever else they want to do. Strut. So okay.
So just like they said, I'm waiting for him to just pop over this lip any minute. in the back of my head, I also think back to yesterday and a couple days prior, as to turkeys sometimes will do strange things, such as veer off of an easy route and take something a little different.
You'd almost think they're trying to catch your down.
Yeah.
Your downwind.
Downwind, yeah.
So
They're trying to get their down sight.
in the back of my head, I'm like, I wonder if he'll drop down to the right a little bit and then come up onto the road. And you can hear in his gobble, he's starting to meander a little bit. And I'm like, man, why isn't he just gonna pop up on this road?
But then you and I heard that drum.
And then I heard him drum, and oh man.
That was that was probably the loudest I've ever heard turkey drum, for sure. I mean, Adam and I were sitting there, and it was so apparent. He gobbled, and immediately after he gobbled, it was dum. And Adam and I looked at each other, and Adam goes, "Did you just hear that?" I'm like, "How could you not hear it?"
He right before he stepped up onto the log road, he had one of those gobbles that it just sounded different. Like once turkeys get into a certain range, their gobble just sounds different. And right as he did that, I see a head bobbing coming up over the logging road, and I'm like, I just keep thinking to myself, like, I can't believe it's gonna happen. We're gonna frickin' seal the deal on the last day, baby. This
Last
is gonna
day,
be crazy.
bottom of the ninth.
Yeah. So at this point, Adam can't see the turkey.
Nope.
Brad can see the turkey, and I'm filming the turkey.
Because Brad's a little bit higher up on the ledge than we are.
Yeah. So this bird hits the top, and he's not strutting. He's just kind of rubbernecking
Immediately.
And he's looking over, and he's looking
right down the log road.
Right down the log road, and I'm like, man, he's
about
gonna
75
I'm
yards.
like, he's gonna see that decoy sitting down there, and he's gonna come strutting right down this logging road. And I have him in the camera the whole time, and he kind of puts his head down, takes a couple steps, and then he's 3/4 strut, and I just see the back of his fan, and then I just see him, and then that's when you saw him, Adam, for the first time.
I saw him come through this little opening, and I only saw him for a split second. But I was looking at the top of the road where I was expecting him to come through, and just to the right of it, I had a little opening in between some brush, and I saw him strut right through it.
Yeah, and I only saw him. I had him in the camera for like a second when he went into that brush strutting, and then he just disappeared down over the.
He disappeared, and he went quiet for a minute, right? At that point.
Yeah, he had gone quiet after he had looked down that hill. He stopped gobbling for probably 5 minutes or so. And then randomly he let out a gobble. And I had leaned back to Brad, and I started motioning my hand to call, because I'm like, that's not good that he went down there and didn't pop right back up. Because if he was coming to that decoy, he would have went down, and we would have seen him probably 2 minutes later.
And it's so funny because when you put your hand behind your back and you were like mouthing with your hands like to tell me to call, I literally had just thought in my own head that I'm going to call him. That was just funny. We were on the same wavelength with that. We knew it was time to try and give him something to keep his attention.
Right. And did he respond to that? I don't remember if he responded to that first one.
I don't
think he responded to any of them.
Yeah, it feels like he got real quiet after he initially stepped up on the road and then got off it.
So now this bird just disappears, shuts up, and it gobbled like twice within a span of 10 minutes. And all of a sudden, Adam and I are sitting there, and we both catch out of the corner of our eye a bird soaring over top of our head. Or not over top of our head, but over top of the Tom's head, flying down the mountain.
Right out in front of us.
A turkey.
A turkey.
Not an owl, not a hawk. It was a turkey.
It was a turkey.
Turkey pitched down and flew directly over the Tom.
Just wings set. Just glide right over top of his head.
You would have never heard it. It was just like some of those freaking military planes we saw this morning.
Literally.
Yeah.
And after that bird glided over top of that bird's head, we never heard that bird walk away. We never heard nothing. He just disappeared. And what we came to think happened, I mean, we'll truly never know what happened.
Right.
We think that they were probably separated on the limb.
That there was him and a hen separated on the limb.
Him and the hen were separated on the limb.
Yeah.
He hopped down. The hen was still up in the tree. We called. He thought it was that hen. He started coming to us. He didn't see our decoy when he came in on the logging road. So when he went to go, I think what he was going to do is go around and maybe take a peek that way. Well, then that hen flew over his head, and he saw her.
Yeah.
And then he turned around and went straight to her.
Yeah.
Instead of coming and checking out that column.
Right. We can't confirm that he did that, but the fact that she flew over his head and then he just disappeared and went quiet, I mean, what else could we possibly think?
She flew directly over his head.
Yeah. Which is hilarious. It's almost like that was like informal communication for him.
Yeah.
To
Yeah,
like come meet me down here.
And she never made.
She never said a
unless
thing.
she was just doing that real soft. Up in
Yeah,
the tree.
right.
We never heard her.
Right.
Never heard her.
No.
And that did it. That did it for our West Virginia trip.
What stinks the most about that whole situation is that not only would we have had the most beautiful footage of this bird strutting down a West Virginia logging road
top of
in
a
the
mountain.
hardwoods as the sun's coming up and he's hammering, but you would have gotten the most genuine reaction out of us
Yep.
when that gun went off and that turkey hit the ground. I'm getting chills thinking about it
100%.
because we had been hunting so hard on the last day in the bottom of the 9th. We'd done blistered this bird on the most perfect hunt you could ever ask for. Oh my, we would have freaking
That would have
lost
been an
it.
emotional one for sure.
We would have lost it, dude.
I mean, from top to bottom, if this hunt would have worked out,
been
we
an
had him.
all-timer.
We hiked up into a spot we never been, or we hiked up into a spot that we presumed there was probably birds.
Mm-hmm.
We heard him on the limb. We made a move on him. He kept gobbling. He landed on the ground. He kept gobbling. The sun's coming up is perfect. We're in a beautiful spot. He comes and just doesn't finish the last 10 yards.
And he came up on when he stepped up the top of the logging road, big, thick, beautiful head on him. I told Adam, I said, you'd have had plenty to shoot at, son, because he had a big old head on him.
Yeah, you'll
you
see
know,
in the
and
video clear
He
as day.
kind of half popping into strut. He's got a real good, deep Tom gobble on him. I mean, I didn't get a look at his beard, but I'm sure we would have been plenty happy with whatever he had going on.
Yep. And
So we rescind, for those who are listening, we rescind what we initially said. We now love West
Love
Virginia.
West Virginia
We
and
respect West
can't wait to
Virginia a
come
lot.
back.
We can't wait to come back. We realized that the problem this entire time was us not spending the time in the right places. But I will also say that, two things come to mind. One, the public land that we had hunted prior to this, the first year being, that I was included in anyways, the first year being Virginia, there was a lot of goblin turkeys, and we shot 2 toms and had an amazing time.
Mm-hmm.
The next year was Kentucky, which was last year. There was a ton of, everything's different, right?
Different sort of
there,
problem.
it was a ton of hunting pressure, but there was gobbling turkeys
Everywhere.
and you could find them. Right. And now we come to West Virginia, and we had to grind it out. And that's what we kept saying, hey, just keep grinding, boys. Just keep grinding.
Yeah,
We were freaking negative, man, at one point. Like, we were like,
yeah.
this state sucks. If we hadn't paid for this campground, we'd pull up our stakes
We'd be
and we'd
gone.
go. We would have left.
we would have left.
Yep.
We would have left, but we were, we paid pretty good money for this campground, so here we were. So everything, and the other thing that came to mind. So every piece of public ground has its challenges, and West Virginia had proven thus far to be the most difficult public land hunting we've done, until we kind of figured out where some turkeys were. But with that being said, I said to these guys many times that there's just something to be said for hunting these public land turkeys, man. I mean, I've shot a lot of turkeys over the years, and so have these two. We've been very successful with the turkeys. But when you really think about what it takes to kill a turkey in the farm country, I mean, sometimes you could rub 2 rocks together and these turkeys will come in and you'll shoot them.
That's right.
These public land toms, man, they're just a different breed of animal.
They are.
They are a truly wild turkey. They are extremely wary. They make really smart moves. I mean, this dude just outsmarted us today.
yeah.
He ain't no fool.
They are
He wasn't going to come
constantly-
blindly walking down a logging road to some hen that was yelping that he probably
Right.
don't hear a whole lot of yelping up there.
I mean, from what we've seen so far, and take what we say with a grain of salt about this.
Mm-hmm.
We've hunted in like this truly mountainous, deep cut ravine, hellacious setting
oh my gosh.
twice in 2 years.
Right.
But our experience so far has been every single bird that we've encountered is extremely cagey. Like, it's always like, it's not like at least we haven't yet got that one bird where it's like he's coming and he don't care. Like, it's always like they get there and they're like,
Very cautious.
Let me just double check on this and make sure I'm making the right decision here.
Mm-hmm.
And every single time it's not panned out for us because of that.
No, I mean, we've found that almost always these birds will swing on you. Almost always. It is very
Yes.
rare. Even when I think back to Kentucky last year, every time they would swing right or left on
And
us.
it is equivalent to a deer going downwind of you is exactly what it is. I mean, that's the exact.
He's
J-hooking.
He's like 360 sonar scanning you.
Yep. Yes.
He's looking over the entire area before he approaches, and that is really hard to overcome. And it's just something else I thought of. I wanted to mention earlier, but I don't want to cut you off. We don't typically hunt with decoys. Most of the time, especially when we're in the woods settings, because it's just a really good opportunity to keep them birds searching and get them closer to you.
Separate them through terrain.
Right. But these hardwoods were so open that we felt like if birds came in from certain directions, they could see so far down through the hardwoods that they were going to hang up if there wasn't a reason for them to commit. So that's why we kept breaking the decoy out, because we thought she might give us the advantage of that visual for the turkey.
And ultimately what I think we left out too is that when that bird crested over top of that hill, he absolutely did not see that decoy.
Which we confirmed.
Which we confirmed because I walked up there and crouched down on my knees, and you couldn't even see a stitch of that decoy.
It's just the way that the gentle grade of that logging road went down, because if he had committed, he would have been like the king coming down from his throne. We were down below him by a 20 or 30-foot gradual grade over 75 yards, and there was just enough roll in that road that his 3-foot height, trying to look down for our little hen decoy, he just couldn't see her. And he looked for her, and that's why we wonder if he'd ever seen it, if things could have been different. For all we know, he could have come running. So West Virginia.
That was West Virginia, and let me tell you, I've been lucky enough to hunt quite a few states now, and even find success in them. And I have to say, this is probably one of my favorite places I've ever hunted now. After what we experienced the last 2 days, and that's all it took. That's all it took. It's to experience what we did the last 2 days, and I would come back here in a heartbeat.
Yeah, the whole experience was just good. And Adam, I know you would agree, but just the small towns that we were in were awesome. We wanted for nothing. There was plenty of amenities when we did need something, when we needed to get food. We cooked on the Blackstone most of the week, but just to save some extra money. But anything we needed, gas, whatever, we could run into some nice local shop. Everybody was really friendly. But overall, this is a very mountainous, rugged area of West Virginia. We were in northeastern West Virginia, I would say. And you don't hit a lot of civilization until you come through these mountain roads for a while, then you hit a small town.
Right.
Then you drive out through the mountains for a while, then you'll hit a small town. So it was really, it's just fun. I've really come to enjoy seeing other parts of the United States in this format, where we're just having fun, we're just turkey hunting, we get to see it all.
I also want to bring this out and just kind of, I don't know, we'll probably be ending here soon. I just want to leave this podcast on a positive note. I just want to say that with everything that goes on in the world, everything you see on social media, talking to different people, there's so much negativity out there and so much divide and all this crazy stuff, and you hear there's so many bad people out there, yada yada yada. We just had this conversation. We have yet, maybe I dare say 3 people over the span that I've been hunting that we have ran into in different states that haven't been welcoming and awesome to talk to, and we've made a lot of good friends along the way.
They're eager to share information.
There's a lot of good people out there, especially when you're traveling around. You start talking to people, you realize all the good in this world. And that's something that what we do is brought to us, is that we get to experience that and see, instead of being outside looking in, we are on the inside, and we're talking to people and seeing people in different states and different towns and different cultures, and there's a lot of damn good people out there.
Yeah, people are very supportive of hunters too. We find when we go to these other states, not that folks in New York aren't supportive of hunters, but they don't really verbalize it when they see you out. You go into places around here and people ask you. We always joke, there was a gentleman in West Virginia, or back when we hunted Virginia, he walked in and saw us all in camo in a gas station. He's like, "Y'all kill one."
Yeah.
I mean, nobody would ever ask us that back in New York. And the same thing's down here. Anybody sees us wearing camo, they want to approach us or talk to us or ask us if we've seen any turkeys. So that's really cool. It's nice to walk into a place wearing camo and not feel like you're kind of an outcast.
Right.
And as a visiting hunter, it's your responsibility to be courteous and kind and respectful and take care of the property you're on. And
it took us
spend a little coin. Go out and eat we went out one night and had a really great meal and
support a local business,
supported local businesses, and do things like that, and that puts a positive word out as a hunter.
Sure, yeah, it's good for these places, and it took us about 0.03 seconds to immediately adopt our southern draw that we always like to have when we come down to these states.
That's right,
and it's gonna be really hard when we get home.
Our ladies are gonna be in
to stop talking like
I've
this.
talked on the phone probably 4 times since I've been down here, and every time I go, "Hey, what's up, man?" Something along those lines.
I mean, these birds in West Virginia, they just ain't gobbling.
I mean, damn, they be up in there hollering, but
they done taught us. They taught us boys a lesson.
I'm to get in them, Baba Boucher.
Oh man, we had more fun on this trip too, though. Oh my gosh, I laughed till I cried a couple times. Just having fun with your buddies, man.
Yep, I'm gonna annoy everybody who's listening to us because we say it every time. Take pictures. Take video and enjoy the moment while it's there because it won't last forever.
That's right.
Yep.
We'll be back to the Mountain Mama State.
Yep. West Virginia.
Blue Ridge Mountains.
Shenandoah River.
All right. It was fun, boys.
Yep.
Glad we did it together.
Real fun.
You guys stay tuned for the YouTube video. I think it'll be a pretty cool video. We got some really, really nice footage on this trip, and the encounters weren't great, the footage-wise, except the last one. I got some pretty good footage of him. The other ones were, like, super quick. Camera was all out of whack, and it was just not working real well. But, so we will have a video out. It should be, I think, a pretty cool video. And then, actually, tonight, we are going to all roost birds because we have our youth hunters in the morning. It's important to take the youth out, so anybody who ever thinks about doing that, who's into hunting, you should, because that's the next generation of people, and you're going to be the mark left on them for what hunting is. So we're going to do that, and then I'm headed to Maryland and I don't know, Maryland, somewhere. I'm headed somewhere, and then Connecticut probably, and then back to New York. So we're going to have a lot of stuff. Probably only have a couple more videos come out this season for our turkey stuff, and the rest will come out next year. But other than that, you guys got anything else?
Nope. We're sending her home, and I am sad, but all these trips must come to an end eventually.
That's right.
That's
back
right,
to reality.
Just like this podcast.
Hope everyone out there has a safe season. Hunt smart, hunt safe, hunt hard. Have fun doing it.
All right, guys. We will catch you on the next one, and thanks for listening.
See y'all.
Later, ball.